Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Devedi, and in this segment today, we are going to discuss many facts about the defense sector of India. This topic is important, very important indeed, from the perspective of prelims and also from the perspective of GS Mains paper 2 and 3. So let's begin with the topics of discussion that we are going to look at. These are the many topics that we are going to discuss. It might become a little long, this segment, but I am sure you are going to get many facts for your answer writing practice. So please do stay engaged. Okay. So if we talk about the news might be divided into 2 to 3 parts that we are going to discuss here today. A seminar was conducted through the help of Defense Research and Development Organization, at which the Defense Minister of India, Rajnath Singh, said that first of all, we have to pay tribute to the CDS, to the late CDS Bipin Rawat through Make in India. That means first part we are going to take here is the Atmanirbhar Bharat in the defense sector, the indigenization of the defense sector. Secondly, he also asked the DRDO to look into various techniques to build hypersonic cruise technology. Hypersonic Glide Vehicle has already been developed by China, and as we know, that we have pretty very important and significant neighbors that are working through day in, day out to undermine India's policies when it comes to defense technologies. First, of course, we have China, and secondly, we have Pakistan. So first, through Make in India tribute, this is actually the tribute for CDS, the late CDS. First part here is the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Second is the missile technology of India, because at this seminar itself, the defense minister said that we need to develop hypersonic cruise missile. And at the backdrop of these two things, we are going to discuss the entire segment. It is going to be of utmost importance that you please note down the facts. Okay, so let's begin, but also understand that this also has one more part, that we are going to discuss about the impacts of the Atmanirbhar Bharat in the defense sector through the help of the SIPRI report that recently said that imports were reduced, exports were also increased. So certain facts and certain important points are there. I'm going to read them out, and whenever it is important for me to intervene for making you explain, for explaining you something, I will come. Okay, so you can see India's defense exports have increased from rupees 1,521 crore in 2016 and 17 to rupees 8,434.84 crore in 2020-21. And the government has also set an ambitious target to achieve exports of about rupees 35,000 crore by 2025. Very important from the perspective of prelims. Please do understand that we need to have facts in hand. We cannot, what happens as an aspirant, you just read it and you forget it, right? But certain significant things are there that you need to take into account, especially from the perspective of UPSC. UPSC is making it very clear that it wants to have a level playing field. So when level playing field comes into the picture, you need to understand you cannot ignore anything. So first, that increase has been registered in exports from this to this comparatively in the years 2016 to 17 to 2020 to 21. Okay. Secondly, what do we get from here is that we have to achieve exports of about rupees 35,000 crore by 2025. Very important, noted down. Also, according to the latest report, 3 Indian companies figure among the top 100 defense companies in India. And this is the ranking of 2020. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, the Ordnance Factory Board, and the Bharat Electronics Limited. So, very important. Another thing is you have to remember the names as well. Okay, and this is according to the SIPRI report. Also keep this in mind. Very important report, especially from the perspective of internal security. Okay, let's move forward and talk about another important agenda that we have here is the overview of the defense sector, how it comes into the picture. Whenever we are going to discuss about defense sector, we will take these many parts, and we have to understand that our answer writing should be in such a manner that it is structured in the similar manner. So if we talk about the growing demand, there has been a growing demand. Why? First, it is to accelerate with rising concerns of national security. National securities come from 3 segments over here: China, Pakistan, and now of course we have Afghanistan. the role playing of Afghanistan's Taliban is going to take a heavy toll on the expenses of India in the defense sector. So in order to reduce dependence on imports, what it is trying to do, it is trying to accelerate the demand according to the, it wants to accelerate the supply, sorry, not the demand, supply according to the demands. Okay, so next thing, there is a critical need to build technology capabilities over countries such as China and Pakistan. China has already tested the Hypersonic Glide Vehicle. That means it is of utmost importance for India to move in the similar direction. It is of utmost importance because we are in a, in a situation with China, especially in the Ladakh region, Arunachal Pradesh region, and China is growing aggressive day by day. Secondly, we have Pakistan. Pakistan has been emboldened by the situation in Afghanistan. So secondly is that. Then we also have the nexus of China and Pakistan. The Iron Brothers, right, as they call themselves. So if we talk about their nexus, China does not want India to grow economically. Of course, who would want their neighbors to become stronger than them? So that is why it is trying to bring into picture Pakistan, the incessant bully, incessant nuisance, they come together to become a part of the picture. Now, please do not, whatever language I'm using here is to make you understand, but do not use these words in your mains answer writing. Okay, this is just to tell you that we are in this situation. Always try to be respectable in your answer writing. Okay, so in the sense that I'm using it colloquially, does not mean that you have to go and write there. What you have to take from this segment is the data, the information, and the structure. Okay. Secondly, if we talk about advantages in India, for competitive advantage, first thing that we need to keep in mind over here is the government of India has changed the automatic route limit of foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment would be of great help, especially at this time of the pandemic when investments are not accelerating. So in defense sector, it has gone up to 74%. And this will, of course, be invested in startups, MSMEs, new innovative facilities where it will be of immense help to have foreign direct investment. Of course, in India, as we saw that foreign direct investment have been recorded at an all-time high. So why not encourage the defense sector to be there? Also, the government of India opened defense sector for private sector participation, and this is not something very new. This was a dream of the late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam to open the defense industries to private sector. Now, government support has been a lot. We will discuss about that as well in our next segment. So these two are something that we are going to discuss about in the later stages. Now, if we move about and talk about the history, as I said that before we begin, this is something that is very modern. Let's go back to the ancient times when rockets were a part of India's history. Mysore's ruler Hyder Ali had an attached division of rocketeers to his army. This is the time when we couldn't have imagined that India was having this technology, but it did. So in history, if it is ever asked from the perspective of prelims, please do keep in mind Mysore's Hyder Ali had this technology. Now, before we begin, what is a missile technology? Missile technology is basically a technology which is unmanned aerial vehicle. It is an unmanned aerial vehicle which might land in some place or which might target a certain object. It is divided into many segments. It can be divided on the basis of speed. We have subsonic, supersonic, hypersonic, size, right? The size is also there. It can be also divided into the target, surface to surface, surface to air, air to air, like that itself. So here we are going to discuss about the speed. Why? Because we are talking about hypersonic. So we have subsonic, supersonic, and hypersonic. Okay. For hypersonic, we will try to discuss about in detail at the later stage. Subsonic and supersonic. What is sonic? This is actually, we compare the speed of the missile or the rocket with the speed of the sound. So if we talk about subsonic, these are technologies or missiles which have a speed below the speed of the sound. So it's like 0.8 Mach. Like we have the American Tomahawk, we also have the US Harpoon and Exocet of France. So these all are subsonic. Second, we have supersonic. Now, here it is 2 to 3 Mach. The speed is 2 to 3 Mach. In just 1 second, it can travel kilometers, 1 kilometer in just 1 second. Of course, we have the BrahMos cruise missile, the only versatile supersonic cruise missile. Again, I am repeating it, the only versatile supersonic cruise missile. And then we have hypersonic. Very few countries have this technology. Now, if we talk about hypersonic missiles have the range of at least 5 Mach. Okay. So, very few countries such as China, US and Russia. And now, if we talk about China has recently tested. So, we have to understand that more and more importance should be put on the hypersonic cruise missile. Okay. Now, if we talk about the current scenario, after independence, pre-independence, we talked about Mysore's Hyder Ali. Now, if we talk about the very recent times, Dr. Abdul Kalam, and here I am talking about the defense sector's history, which is inclined towards rockets or missile technology. So, Dr. Abdul Kalam propagated the requirement of the private sector, as I already told you, to have its working in the defense manufacturing sectors with 9 other public sector companies, public sector units of HAL, BEL, BDL, BEML, and Midhani, MDN, and GRSDN 41 ordnance factories. And the idea was to mainly promote the micro, small, and medium enterprises to come into the picture so that more innovation can happen. And that is by having startups to come into the picture along with MSMEs and have the research and development culture. Because we cannot be independent, we cannot be dependent on various countries to support us, especially in the contemporary times, which were acknowledged as back as in the 1950s and 60s. So the idea is to be dependent, have a scientific temperament towards the country. Can you tell me which directive principle of state policies talks about the scientific temper, or which fundamental duty talks about it? Is it DPSP or is it fundamental duty? Okay, in the comment segment tell me. So research and development culture should be increased, and that is in the industry. In order to build indigenous, that means made in the nation itself, state-of-the-art system for defense application. And if we talk about hypersonic cruise missile over here, we are going to discuss, but also we are going to talk about the basic details about the history here first. So, a special weapon development team was started in the year 1958 because India did not have any dedicated structure to build indigenous technologies. And then a Defense Research and Development Laboratory was built in the year 1962 so that proper infrastructural support could be given to the defense technologies in India. Then we had the Project Devil in 1972. Now, this basically talked about medium surface-to-surface missile technologies, and many infrastructure could be built because of Project Devil. And then, of course, we have to talk about the 1983's Integrated Guided Missile Development Program that was started. Very important from the perspective of missile technology. And we have 5 missile systems under it. First, we have Prithvi, that is surface-to-surface. Now, if we talk about cruise missiles are basically unmanned, self-propelled vehicles that have a target to reach at in order to deliver warheads. So, surface-to-surface missiles are basically those missiles which are targeted through handheld or fixed or mounted bases, and then they reach the other surface. Prithvi is very important from the perspective of India's missile system. Although it has a range of 350 kilometers, its range is not a lot, but very important because it is with the strategic command forces. So we have to understand the importance of Prithvi. It's a medium range surface to surface missile, but very important. Akash is surface to air missile. Okay, so it goes from surface, the target is in the air, The target can be ballistic missile, it can be a cruise missile, it can be aircrafts, helicopters. Trishul is the naval version of Prithvi itself. Remember, Trishul, naval version of Prithvi. Prithvi is the surface-to-surface missile with a range of 350 kilometers. Nag is anti-tank guided missile. That means it has the target as we have a well-armored tank can be destroyed with the help of Nag. Then we have Agni. Agni is very important. 5,000 kilometers of range. Intercontinental, that means it can cross continents. It has different ranges, very important. It is also with the strategic command forces. Now, if we talk about anti-tank guided missiles, Nag has already been inducted into these services. It is the only fire and forget ATGM, okay, anti-tank guided missile, okay. So, very important. These facts from the perspective of prelims, kindly noted them down. Nag is the only fire and forget. Once you set the target, you tend to forget. After that, it can guide itself, self-propelled. All-weather requirements for its range, around 20 kilometers. Then Heli-Nag was also recently tested. It will be operated from helicopters. That is why it is known as Heli-Nag. HELI stands for helicopter. It will be inducted by 2022. Sant, that means standoff anti-tank missile. It has a range of 10 kilometers. It has a millimeter wave seeker, which enhances target direction in all weather conditions because the resolution is good. Also, a man-portable anti-tank guided missiles, these are also available. Then we have surface-to-air missile. The short-range SAM system, Akash, has already been inducted in the Army and the Air Force. For Akash 1, which has a seeker, the Army has already got the acceptance of necessity from the government. Acceptance of necessity that we needed. The acceptance has been done, that it is of utmost importance that we induct Akash 1. Then for Akash, the new generation, the first tests were conducted in July this year, soon to be inducted. Now we have air-to-air, that is Astra. It is India's beyond visual range air-to-air missile, and it has a range of about 100 kilometers. Do understand that you all have to, I won't spoon feed you everything. I can give you the huge structure. Now the bits and bits, I will try to make you understand, but if I did that, it would be a 2-hour long class. So kindly note down the certain points that you can Google by yourself. Okay. Domestically developed light combat aircraft Tejas we have, a long range Astra we have. The missile uses solid fuel ramjet technology, which enhances the speed and will have an indigenously built seeker. Then if we talk about air to ground, Rudram, which is an air generation anti-radiation missile, is also there. Maximum range it has of 200 kilometers. It can target communication, radar and surveillance systems of the adversary, and was tested from the Sukhoi 30 MKI fighter jet last year. A supersonic missile assisted torpedo system was also successfully launched from Wheeler Island last Monday. Anti-submarine capable, has the anti-submarine capability with a range of around 400 kilometers. Moving on. Now, SIPRI yearbook is very important, as I told you, from the perspective of the examination. And it is of utmost importance that you read this report, not the entire one, but the gist. So we have tried to make it as small as possible for you over here. So basically, we have talked about the top contributors are the 3. We have Bharat Electronics Limited, HAL and Ordnance Factory Board as the top 3 contributors in the exports of India. And their aggregated arms sales is of $6.5 billion. And it was 1.7 times higher in 2020. Keep the percentage in mind. 1.7 times higher in 2020 than it was in 2019. How much higher? 1.7%. It could be a prelims question. And accounted for 1.2% of the top total 100. But India remains the second highest importer, only behind Saudi Arabia. Russia is the largest arms supplier to India in both periods from 2011-12, 13-14-15 to 2016 to 2020. But Russia's share of India arms imported fell from 70% humongous to 49%. You can understand how much India is trying to propel and further itself when it comes to defense technology, how reduced in dependence it has recorded, how much of a great margin it has recorded from Russia. France and Israel were the second and the third largest arms suppliers. In 2016 to 2020, India's arms import from France, it increased by 709%. Rafale, if we talk about, very important part of India's Air Force. And those from Israel, it also rose by 82%. USA became the fourth largest supplier. Now, this is all very important. Please keep in mind the first, second, third, fourth suppliers of arms to India. It could be asked in prelims. And this is very, very short form of information you are getting over here to save your time. For the period of 2016 to 2020, it was the second largest arms suppliers to India in 2011 to 2015. Now, if we talk about exports, India accounted for 0.2% of the share of global arms exports during 2016 to 20. And that makes the country world's 24th largest exporter of major arms. This represents an increase of more than 200% over India's export share of 0.1% during the previous 5 years. We have Myanmar in list, Sri Lanka and Mauritius, those who recorded the top receipt of India's military endeavors. Now, very importantly, this all started when there was a necessity with respect to become Atmanirbhar. Atmanirbhar, not only the various sectors, but very importantly in the indigenous sector. And it was only in February 2020 that the defense minister at Aero India 2021 announced to reduce defense imports by at least $2 billion by 2022. Again, very important. Keep the figure in mind and the year in mind. Okay. And that is with respect to defense imports. And defense production and export promotion policy of 2020 came into the picture, leaving us very, very faithful in the fact that India wants to have its defense sector strengthened. Then the ministry aims to achieve a turnover of rupees 1,75,000 crores, that is 25 billion US dollars, including an export of 35,000 crore that we have already seen in the beginning of the session. But remember the billion, 5 billion US dollars, but because it could be asked in the terms of rupees and dollars as well. In our aerospace and defense goods and services, the year is 2025. Now, Defense Research and Development Organization procurement manual also came into being. That was recently, that means more than a year ago, where startups and micro, small and medium enterprises were to be taken into the picture. And also, new infrastructure including defense park in Kerala to manufacture defense equipment was seen. Land management system was also launched in order to manage the land that could be accorded to the defense industry. Moving on, for new licensees, we have already discussed that, so we should move forward from it. And the defense minister estimated potential contracts worth rupees 4 lakh crore. And that is for the domestic industry in the next 5 to 7 years, 2025 to 2027. Now, this all started, if you remember, with an embargo. The negative list, the number of items which could not be imported. That means they had to be supplied from within the premises of the country. It included artillery guns, short-range surface-to-air missiles, cruise missiles, offshore patrol vehicles. That means for the Indian Coast Guard, those vehicles that need to have a patrolling potential should be developed in India. That was issued in August 2020. Now, impacts of it has been a lot, right? So, India exported defense equipment. We have already discussed about that. This is one of the impacts of the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the different manuals, policies that came into being, the embargoes, the negative list, now known as positive list, positive indigenization list, because of that itself. And India's imports of arms, we have already discussed this as well. So, just to make you ensured of the fact that we are not going to leave anything for you. In the whatever amount of time that I am getting over here, I am trying to give as much information as possible. Okay, so import of arms decreased by 33%. That is because SIPRI says so. This is of March 16, 2021. Keep on updating your basis. Okay, let's move forward and talk about it more. That the impacts have been seen, that proper target for the export policy. In which sectors can we have proper exports? Which objects of defense? The LCA helicopters, this is for export, not import, for export. these sectors are good for India if we work on them to export these objects. So, multi-purpose light transport aircraft, warships and patrol vehicles, artillery, gun system, tanks, radars, military vehicles, electronic warfare systems and other weapon systems to Indian Ocean region. We are already exporting to over 40 nations now, and we have now to emerge as the global exporter. Vietnam, interestingly, is procuring 12 fast attack craft. Vietnam versus China's dimension comes into being over here, that is over the South China Sea, right? Under a 100 million credit line deal announced by India, discussions are continuing to identify systems under the second line of credit. Okay, moving on, Vietnam is also interested in advanced light helicopters and Akash surface to air, and Hindustan Aeronautics Limited has pitched its helicopters and the Tejas LCA to several Southeast Asian and West Asian nations. And this is important because you have to write in the mains examination if any question of this sort comes, that India's export policy, are we improving or not? What can India do to make it more efficient, and everything that is needed over here is produced over here. But before we go to the conclusion, I did tell you that we will talk about hypersonic technology. So let me just introduce a bit of it to you with the help of the slides that I have arranged for you. Okay, so hypersonic is important because India is working towards it, and because India's competitor China has already worked well, right? So we have hypersonic missile. It travels with a speed of Mach 5 and higher. Mach 5 is the least one and speed can be higher. 1 mile per second, that means 1 mile per second. Russia's upcoming KH-47M2 Kinzhal air-launched ballistic missile is being touted as a hypersonic cruise missile, and you have to remember the name because it could be asked in prelims. What is this? Okay, so Mach, it will be having a Mach 10 speed, Mach 10, and distances up to 1200 miles. Very powerful. It can change the entire game. And this type of missile reaches its target with the help of a high-speed jet engine that allows it to travel at extreme speeds in excess of Mach 5. And basically, if we talk about hypersonic glide missile that China has tested, this type of hypersonic missile utilizes re-entry vehicle. That means it can re-enter the atmosphere of the Earth. And initially, the missile is launched into space outside the atmosphere of the Earth on an arcing trajectory where the warheads are released and falls towards the atmosphere at hypersonic speed. So you can see if our neighbor is becoming so well acquainted with these technologies, why India cannot and why India shouldn't. Okay, let's move on to the conclusion of it. I hope you have found many things to write about and many things to know for prelims, because it is of utmost importance that we do not leave anything behind, right? What makes India good in missile technology? Because India has seen the missile technology regime of India is the only very strongest thing that we have in our possession. What makes it? The continuous research and development since the year 1983. And of course, India has been propelled with the help of the accumulation of proper technologies by China and Pakistan. And China and Pakistan, when we talk about China, we always have to take Pakistan in the picture. Okay, so according to a Pentagon report in 2020, China may have either achieved parity or even exceeded the US in land-based conventional ballistic and cruise missile capabilities. So that is why we have to understand the importance of building a technology, hypersonic technology, and India is working towards it. So RDO successfully tested a hypersonic technology demonstrated vehicle in September 2020. Also demonstrated its hypersonic air-breathing scramjet technology so that less and less fuel can be used. India has developed its own cryogenic engine. Cryogenic means storing the fuel of the rocket in a liquid form at a temperature that is very low. Cryogenic technology. And demonstrated it in a 23-second flight. India will try to make a hypersonic cruise missile. Sources have also said that only Russia has proven its hypersonic missile capability so far, while China has demonstrated its HGV capacity. That means it glides back. It is a re-entry jet and it has been tested by China. So very important. Let's move on and talk about our mains-based question. According to the latest SIPRI report, discuss about the positive impacts of India's move to indigenize the defense sector. Also, comment on the missile technology in India. So you have to write it in 250 words, okay? So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.